Aliens gave humans one chance to surrender. Humanity chose war. HFY story. The sky did not crack with thunder or burn with fire. It simply went dark, as if the universe itself had decided to stop watching. Millions of people looked up at the same moment, hearts freezing, as shapes the size of cities slid silently across the heavens. No warning. No sound. Just shadows swallowing the sun. In that instant, humanity understood something deep and terrifying. This was not a visit. This was a judgment. Across the world, streets filled with people staring upward. Traffic stopped. Phones slipped from shaking hands. In Mumbai, in Berlin, in Lagos, in Sao Paulo, the same impossible sight hovered above every major city. Massive alien vessels, smooth and angular, hung motionless in the air as if gravity had surrendered before humans ever could. Dr. Elias Monroe was underground when the message came. He was in a seismic research facility in Colorado, studying fault-line behavior, when every screen in the room went black at once. Then the same image appeared everywhere. A symbol no one recognized, rotating slowly, followed by a voice that was calm, cold, and unmistakably not human. Species designation: human. Planetary classification: Sol 3. You are now within the jurisdiction of the Velthari Dominion. You have 6 hours to surrender all weapons, governments, and orbital assets. Compliance ensures survival. Resistance ensures correction. The message repeated, perfectly translated into every human language. Monroe felt his stomach drop. Around him, scientists stood frozen. One of them whispered, "Correction." In orbit above Earth, High Executor Korath watched data scroll across his command chamber. The humans were reacting exactly as predicted. Panic. Confusion. Emotional overload. He had overseen the submission of 7 worlds, and every species followed the same pattern. Shock first. Fear next. Obedience after. Primitive, Korath said, his 4 eyes narrowing slightly. They will kneel. Back on Earth, governments scrambled. Emergency sessions erupted across every capital. Militaries went on full alert. Fighter jets screamed into the air, missiles locked onto targets that refused to register properly on radar. When the first test missile launched from a remote base in the Pacific, it didn't explode. It vanished, swallowed by a shimmering field that wrapped the alien ship like a second skin. General Mara Ionescu watched the footage in silence from a reinforced command bunker beneath Bucharest. "So that's their answer," she said quietly. "They're untouchable." "No," replied Colonel Nathan Reyes, standing beside her. "They just want us to think they are." Reyes had spent his life studying asymmetric warfare. Humans had never been the strongest species on their own planet, yet they had survived everything. Ice ages. Plagues. World wars. Every time humanity faced extinction, it adapted instead of surrendering. He believed this moment would be no different. In Tokyo, engineer Akira Voss was on the roof of his apartment building, staring at the ship above the city. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, its surface shifting like liquid metal. His hands trembled, but his mind raced. Nothing that large should hover without energy bleed. No heat distortion. No sound. "That means efficiency," he muttered. "And efficiency means limits." 6 hours felt both endless and impossibly short. News feeds showed chaos and unity in equal measure. Some people prayed. Others looted. Some fled cities, while others helped strangers reach safety. Old arguments about borders and politics faded, replaced by a single question shared by every human being. Do we submit, or do we fight? In a hidden facility beneath the Swiss Alps, representatives from what remained of Earth's leadership gathered through secure channels. Faces appeared on massive screens, tired, afraid, and angry. "We cannot win a direct conflict," one leader said. "We should surrender and survive." "And live as what?" another snapped. "Slaves." Dr. Monroe had been brought in to advise on alien technology. He leaned forward. "They're advanced, yes. But they're not gods. Anything that exists obeys rules. Energy. Physics. Systems. And systems can fail. A young intelligence analyst interrupted. Sir, we intercepted internal alien transmissions. They're frustrated. That caught everyone's attention. They didn't expect this much debate. Or delay, the analyst continued. They assumed we'd surrender immediately. Colonel Reyes smiled grimly. Then we've already surprised them. As the deadline approached, High Executive Korath grew irritated. The humans were not behaving correctly. Instead of unified surrender, they argued. Negotiated. Prepared. He ordered a demonstration. A single beam of pale blue light fell from the sky onto an uninhabited desert military site. The ground didn't explode. It ceased to exist. Sand turned to glass. Bunkers vanished. The message was clear. Earth fell silent. Then something unexpected happened. Human communication networks lit up, not with panic, but resolve. The demonstration had crossed an invisible line. Fear turned into anger. Anger turned into purpose. Akira Voss transmitted his calculations to every open scientific forum he could reach. Their shields oscillate, his message read. Not randomly. There's a rhythm. Dr. Monroe read it and felt hope spark for the first time. In the final minutes before the deadline, a global broadcast activated. The face that appeared was calm, exhausted, and unbowed. We hear your demand, the human speaker said. But understand this. Humanity does not surrender because it is afraid. We adapt. We endure. And if survival requires defiance, then defiance is what you will get. High Executive Korath stared at the screen in disbelief. The 6-hour mark passed. Silence stretched across the planet. Then the alien fleet shifted position. Non-compliance confirmed, the alien voice announced. Initiating Phase 2. Above Earth, weapons charged. Below, humans moved. Hidden bases activated. Old satellites powered up. Analog radios crackled to life. Soldiers, scientists, farmers, and engineers stepped into roles they never wanted but refused to abandon. Colonel Reyes checked his rifle and looked at his team. They think we chose war because we're stupid, he said. Let's show them how wrong they are. Far above, High Executive Korath finally understood his error. These humans were not afraid enough. They were dangerous. And the war for Earth had just begun. The first alien strike did not come with fury. It came with precision. Across the planet, beams of pale blue light stabbed down from orbit, targeting air bases, naval ports, missile silos, and command centers. The Velthari Dominion did not want chaos yet. They wanted control. Their doctrine was simple: remove the enemy's ability to resist, then occupy what remained. What they did not understand was that humans had already accepted loss. Many of the bases they destroyed were nearly empty. Aircraft had been moved to hidden runways. Fleets had submerged. Command staff had scattered into mountains, forests, deserts, and deep underground. Humanity had learned this lesson long ago. If you cannot stop the first blow, make sure it doesn't end the fight. Dr. Elias Monroe felt the tremors even from his underground facility. Dust shook loose from the ceiling as distant impacts rippled through the planet's crust. Screens flickered, then stabilized. They're surgical, one technician said. Too surgical. That means restraint, Monroe replied. And restraint means they still want us alive. In orbit, High Executive Korath watched the operation unfold with growing unease. Resistance had been expected, but not coordination. Human forces were not charging blindly. They were disappearing. Where are their counterattacks? One of his subcommanders asked. Korath did not answer. His attention was fixed on a data stream showing rising electromagnetic noise across the planet. Old frequencies. Crude ones. Signals his systems filtered out as irrelevant. That was his second mistake. Colonel Nathan Reyes moved through the ruins of a former industrial district in northern Mexico with a small unit of volunteers. They were not professional soldiers. Some were mechanics. One had been a schoolteacher. Another was a former street racer who knew engines better than most engineers. They were armed with modified weapons built from scavenged tech and human ingenuity. Nothing elegant. Nothing standardized. But it worked. "Drone incoming," someone whispered. Reyes raised his hand. Everyone froze. The alien drone hovered into view, scanning with a faint green light. It was sleek, fast, and deadly. It should have detected them instantly. Instead, it drifted past. The teacher let out a breath. "Your jammer worked." Reyes nodded. "Old tech. Analog noise. They don't know how to listen for it." They struck minutes later, swarming the isolated drone, ripping it apart, and dragging the wreckage into a tunnel network beneath the city. Every destroyed piece of alien equipment was a lesson. Every lesson made humans more dangerous. In Tokyo, Akira Voss sat in a darkened lab with a dozen other engineers, watching real-time data stream in from across the world. Alien shields were failing in short bursts. Not long enough to destroy ships, but long enough to prove something critical. "They're compensating manually," Akira said. "Their systems don't auto-correct fast enough." "Meaning?" someone asked. "Meaning they didn't expect anyone to fight back at this level." Above London, an alien troop carrier descended for the first time. Velthari soldiers marched into the city streets, tall and armored, weapons humming with restrained power. They moved in perfect formation, confident and unafraid. They were met with silence. Then the streets exploded. Human resistance fighters struck from hidden positions, collapsing buildings, flooding underground passages, and vanishing before the aliens could respond. The Velthari fought like machines. Humans fought like ghosts. High Executor Korath slammed a clawed hand against his command console. "Deploy more ground units. Increase pressure. Break their will." "They are not breaking," a subcommander replied carefully. "They are adapting." That word tasted bitter. Dr. Monroe stood over a dissected alien power core recovered from a downed drone. His team had worked without sleep for 30 hours. The device hummed softly, unstable now that it was removed from its original housing. "They rely on centralized energy flow," he said. "Elegant, powerful, and fragile." "How fragile?" asked General Ionescu through a secure link. Monroe smiled thinly. "Fragile enough." Across Earth, something extraordinary was happening. Humanity was no longer reacting. It was learning. Resistance groups shared data through improvised networks using old radios, fiber lines, even hand-carried drives. Farmers reported alien patrol routes. Hackers disrupted alien logistics. Children learned evacuation drills like games. Fear did not vanish, but it stopped ruling decisions. In orbit, Korath received his first casualty report. A Velthari troop carrier had been destroyed during landing. Human weapons should not have been capable of that. He replayed the footage again and again, watching the moment the ship's shield flickered and failed. "Impossible," he whispered. But the numbers kept rising. 1 ship. Then 3. Then 7. The Dominion had never lost ships to a pre-spacefaring species. On the ground, Colonel Reyes watched the night sky light up with distant explosions. He knew what they meant. Progress bought with blood. "They still think we're cornered," one of his fighters said. Reyes shook his head. "No. They're starting to realize something worse." "What?" "That we're not fighting to win today." In a hidden bunker, a human broadcast went out across the resistance networks. Not from a politician or a general, but from a nurse who had lost her family in the first strikes. "They can burn our cities," she said. "They can kill us. But they cannot make us stop being human. And that means we don't stop trying." The message spread faster than any weapon. High Executor Korath stood alone, staring at Earth rotating beneath his fleet. This planet was supposed to be easy, profitable, another conquest to add to the Dominion's glory. Instead, it was becoming a wound. "Prepare escalation protocols," he ordered at last. "If they refuse to submit, we will teach them extinction." Far below, humans prepared as well. They salvaged. They studied. They planned. Because humanity had finally made its choice clear. If the universe wanted their surrender, it would have to earn it. And the universe had never faced a species like this before. The Velthari Dominion changed tactics. High Executor Korath had learned that fear alone would not break humans. Precision strikes had failed. Occupation had failed. Now he ordered something far more brutal. The extermination phase would begin, not to wipe out humanity completely, but to convince them that survival itself was a mistake. Entire city blocks were marked for cleansing. When the first warning reached the resistance networks, silence followed. Then resolve hardened into something sharper. Dr. Elias Monroe listened to the intercepted Velthari transmission twice before speaking. They're planning atmospheric denial in selected zones. General Ionescu's voice came through the speaker, tight with anger. You mean suffocation? Yes, Monroe replied. They can temporarily alter air composition using their field generators. Not forever, but long enough. Across the planet, evacuation alarms wailed. People fled cities not in panic now, but with practiced efficiency. Underground shelters filled. Old subway tunnels reopened. Mines became lifelines. Humanity was learning how to hide in its own scars. High above Earth, Velthari cruisers descended lower than ever before. They had to. The atmospheric systems required proximity. That brought them within reach. Akira Voss stood beside a cluster of generators hidden inside a collapsed shopping complex. His hands shook as he flipped the final switch. This should not work, he muttered. The human-made device screamed as it overloaded, blasting a chaotic electromagnetic pulse straight upward. One alien ship shuddered. Its lights flickered. Then its shield failed. Cheers erupted from the resistance fighters watching from the rubble. Missiles fired from hidden launchers struck the exposed hull. The cruiser broke apart in a silent fireball that lit the clouds. For the first time, humans were hunting alien ships deliberately. Colonel Nathan Reyes led a strike team through flooded tunnels beneath what had once been Houston. Their target was not a ship or a soldier, but a supply node. The Velthari depended on strict logistics. Cut those lines, and their efficiency collapsed. The team moved silently, coated in thermal dampening gel that confused alien sensors. When they reached the node, Reyes didn't give a speech. He didn't need to. The explosion echoed for miles. In orbit, High Executor Korath stared at the loss reports in disbelief. Supply failures. Shield collapses. Internal sabotage. This was not how a conquered species behaved. These humans, a commander said cautiously, they are learning faster than projected. Korath's voice dropped to a growl. Then we will stop teaching them. He authorized the release of the Dominion's apex units. Velthari hunters descended in armored drop pods, each one engineered for pursuit and elimination. They were faster, stronger, and equipped with adaptive weapons designed to counter evolving enemies. The first hunters landed in the ruins of Johannesburg. They did not expect traps. Human resistance fighters lured the hunters into narrow passages, collapsing structures behind them. Fire and noise confused the hunters' sensors. Improvised weapons detonated at close range. The hunters killed many humans, but they did not survive. Every fallen hunter was studied. Every weapon copied, altered, improved. Dr. Monroe watched footage of the engagement, eyes wide. They built those units to fight predators, he said. Not prey that thinks. In a forested region of Eastern Europe, something unexpected happened. A Velthari patrol removed their helmets while resting. They had miscalculated Earth's atmosphere. The oxygen levels strained their biology over time. Within minutes, they collapsed. Human scouts watching from a distance recorded everything. That information spread like wildfire. They can't breathe here forever, Akira said, disbelief turning into awe. Earth itself is fighting for us. Hope is dangerous. It makes people brave. Across occupied territories, human workers began subtle sabotage. Filters loosened. Seals weakened. Maintenance delayed. Velthari soldiers grew tired faster. Slower. Fear began to creep into the Dominion ranks. High Executor Korath felt it before he admitted it. The humans were not just resisting. They were winning in ways that mattered. The Dominion's doctrine had never accounted for a species that weaponized curiosity. A massive human operation launched under cover of a planetary storm. Resistance forces across 5 continents struck simultaneously. Power nodes failed. Communication relays went dark. Velthari ships were forced to retreat higher into orbit, losing control over their ground forces. Colonel Reyes watched Velthari units pull back through his scope. "They're running," someone whispered. "No," Reyes corrected. "They're afraid." In a hidden broadcast, a human voice addressed the planet. "We are not stronger than them. We are not smarter. But we are stubborn. We learn. We adapt. And we protect each other." That is what they never understood. High Executor Korath stood before the Dominion Council via hologram. His status had shifted. No longer confident. Now defensive. "These humans must be eradicated," one counselor hissed. "They are a threat." Korath bowed his head slightly. "They already are." The council authorized a final measure. One that had never been used on a single planet before. Planetary fracture weapons. If Earth could not be conquered, it would be broken. The order was given. Deep beneath the surface, Velthari devices began to awaken. Humanity did not yet know what was coming. But they would. And when they did, they would face the greatest choice they had ever made, not just whether to fight, but how much of their world they were willing to sacrifice to save it. The first signs came from the ground. Deep beneath the Andes, seismographs began to scream. In Iceland, volcanic sensors lit up with impossible readings. Along the Pacific Ring of Fire, pressure levels rose far beyond natural limits. At first, scientists thought Earth itself was breaking under the stress of war. Dr. Elias Monroe knew better. "These are not natural," he said, his voice tight as he studied the data streaming across multiple screens. "They are drilling. Not for resources. For anchors." General Ionescu leaned forward. "Anchors for what?" Monroe swallowed. "For something meant to crack a planet from the inside." The Velthari Dominion had grown tired of resistance. High Executor Korath no longer spoke of submission or occupation. The Council's directive was clear. Earth would be rendered uninhabitable. Its destruction would serve as a warning to every other developing species in the galaxy. Fear returned to humanity, but this time it did not paralyze. It focused. Across resistance networks, one message spread rapidly. This was not a battle for cities or nations anymore. This was a fight for the planet itself. Akira Voss stood inside a repurposed geothermal station in northern Japan, staring at a schematic projected onto a cracked concrete wall. The Velthari fracture devices were positioned along fault lines, using Earth's own tectonic forces as weapons. "They don't need to blow us up," he said. "They just need to push." "And can we stop them?" asked a young engineer beside him. Akira hesitated, then nodded. "Not all of them. But maybe enough." Colonel Nathan Reyes was already moving. Resistance cells received orders not to attack patrols or ships, but drilling sites. Every fracture anchor destroyed delayed the chain reaction. Delay was survival. In the mountains of Chile, human fighters climbed through freezing darkness to reach a Velthari site embedded in solid rock. They lost people on the ascent. Lost more breaching the alien perimeter. But they reached the core. When the explosion came, it echoed like thunder through the stone. In Africa's Great Rift Valley, farmers guided resistance units through hidden paths only they knew. In Alaska, miners collapsed tunnels behind advancing Velthari forces, trapping machines designed for war inside human-made labyrinths. Earth itself became a weapon. High Executor Korath watched the operations unravel with something close to disbelief. "They are dismantling planetary systems with hand tools and explosives," he snarled. "How are they still functioning?" "Because they don't operate as a hierarchy," one commander replied. "Remove one node, others adapt." The Dominion had never faced a species that fought like a swarm. Dr. Monroe's team made a discovery that changed everything. By synchronizing data from captured Velthari devices, they identified a feedback loop. The fracture anchors were linked. If enough were destabilized at once, the system would collapse inward. But there's a cost, Monroe warned during a secure briefing. The energy has to go somewhere. Silence filled the room. General Ionescu spoke softly. Earth can absorb some of it. But not all. Millions of lives hung in the balance. The decision was not made by one leader or one nation. It spread organically through resistance channels, debated by scientists, soldiers, and civilians alike. Sacrifice-controlled regions to save the planet. Entire evacuation zones were marked. Cities already ruined by war were emptied completely. Underground shelters sealed. Trains ran non-stop. Boats crossed oceans packed with refugees. Humanity moved as one, not because it was ordered to, but because it chose to. High above, Velthari ships repositioned to oversee the final phase. They cannot stop it in time, Korath said, confidence returning at last. Even if they disrupt the system, their world will tear itself apart. On the ground, Akira Voss initiated the sequence. Human-built counter-generators roared to life, feeding chaotic energy into the Velthari network. Colonel Reyes watched the countdown on his wrist display tick toward 0 while holding the hand of a wounded fighter beside him. "We did what we could," he said quietly. The system collapsed. Across the planet, earthquakes rolled like waves. Mountains shifted. Seas pulled back from coastlines and slammed forward again. Skies filled with ash and lightning. But the planet did not break. Instead, the Velthari anchors overloaded. One by one, they detonated, not outward, but inward. The energy that was meant to shatter Earth surged back through the network and into orbit. Velthari ships screamed as systems failed. Shields collapsed. Hulls cracked. Some vessels vanished in blinding flashes of light. In orbit, High Executor Korath was thrown from his command platform as alarms howled. "Shut it down," he roared. "They can't," an officer cried. "The feedback is cascading." For the first time in Dominion history, a conquest fleet was in full retreat. On Earth, humans emerged from shelters into a wounded but living world. Cities lay in ruins. Landscapes were scarred. Millions were dead. But the planet still turned. And humanity still stood upon it. A global broadcast activated automatically, patched together from surviving systems. The image was unstable, the voice rough, but it was human. "We are still here," the message said. "And we are not done." High Executor Korath stared at Earth shrinking beneath his fleeing fleet. He had failed. Worse, he had revealed a truth the Dominion had tried to bury for centuries. Some species could not be ruled. They could only be destroyed, or avoided. And humanity was now known. The war was not over. But it had changed forever. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important. The Velthari fleet did not leave in triumph. It fled. From Earth's surface, people watched the alien ships retreat into the dark, their once perfect formations broken and burning. No cheers rose from the ruins. No celebrations followed. Humanity was too tired, too wounded, and too aware of what it had lost. But something had changed. For the first time in human history, Earth had faced extinction from beyond the stars, and survived. Dr. Elias Monroe stood on a hillside overlooking what had once been a city. Smoke drifted upward in slow spirals. The ground beneath his boots was cracked and scarred, yet solid. "They tried to break the planet," he said quietly, "and failed." Akira Voss joined him, eyes fixed on the sky. "They underestimated something simple," he replied. "We don't need to be perfect. We just need to keep going." Across the world, recovery began immediately. Not because leaders ordered it, but because humans had learned how to act together without waiting for permission. Makeshift hospitals treated the wounded. Engineers restored power using salvaged systems. Farmers replanted fields in ash-covered soil. Children were taught again, sometimes in caves, sometimes under open skies. Colonel Nathan Reyes walked through a resistance camp that no longer needed to hide. Fighters laid down weapons beside tools and medical kits. The war had blurred the line between soldier and civilian, and now that same adaptability guided peace. "We didn't win," one fighter said to him. Reyes shook his head. "We survived. That's step one." High Executor Korath knelt before the Veltharai Dominion Council, his once pristine armor scarred and darkened. The chamber was silent as the records played: human strikes, collapsing anchors, ships destroyed by a species that should have been helpless. A pre-interstellar civilization inflicted irreversible losses, one counselor said coldly. "Explain." Korath raised his head. "They learn faster than we do. They fight without hierarchy. They weaponize failure. Earth is not a resource. It is a forge." The council deliberated only briefly. "Earth is designated a forbidden system," the ruling came. "No Veltharai vessel will enter Sol space again." The decision sent ripples across the galaxy. Other civilizations listened, observed, took note. On Earth, telescopes tracked alien signals retreating deeper into space. Humanity did not chase. There was no hunger for revenge, only vigilance. Dr. Monroe helped establish the Planetary Defense Initiative, not as an army, but as a shared network of knowledge. Alien technology was studied openly, distributed carefully, and improved relentlessly. Humanity would not be caught unprepared again. Akira Voss led a team developing hybrid energy systems, combining human chaos with alien precision. "Their mistake," he said during a broadcast, "was assuming intelligence means control. For us, it means curiosity." Years passed. Earth healed slowly. Scar tissue replaced perfection. Cities rebuilt differently, with evacuation paths and underground networks woven into daily life. Children grew up knowing the sky was not always safe, but also knowing they were not helpless beneath it. Humanity reached space again, not as conquerors, but as survivors who remembered what it cost to stand their ground. In distant systems, alien commanders studied human encounters with unease. Stories spread of a world that refused to submit, of a species that turned invasion into innovation, of a planet that fought back. The galaxy learned a new rule: do not threaten Earth. Not because humans were the strongest, but because they would never stop. On a quiet evening, long after the war, a message was broadcast from Earth into the void. Not a warning, not a challenge, just a statement. We are human. We adapt. We endure. We are still here. The signal traveled outward, carried by radio waves and hope, reaching stars that had never heard of Sol 3 before. Some would listen. Some would fear. And some, one day, might come in peace. Because humanity had proven something no empire ever could. Even against impossible odds, when given one chance to surrender, humanity chose to fight. And the universe would remember that choice forever.